Coming up on Now See This.
The intersection of these T8 into the bus.
A police chase scatters civilians
Look at that.
in a crash of Hollywood proportions. Mother Nature pounds two surfers in a storm of biblical proportions. And a daredevil shatters himself in a stunt of hellish proportions. It's a battle of strength, a battle of steel, and a battle of survival. Think you've seen it all? Now see this. Los Angeles, California. With 5.1 million cars on the road, it's the world capital of police chases. And when the sirens scream, this man is in dogged pursuit. Independent news photographer Paul Anderegg.
I'm an independent news person who goes out and shoots video for TV stations.
Considered one of the best in the business, his day starts when most others end. Using a battery of police scanners and high-tech devices, Paul chases and then films news events as they break. But tonight, the story almost breaks him.
Me and my partner who were out working that night heard pursuit coming down the freeway, so we set up to try to intercept it. And as it came to the intersection, it was clipped by a Brinks truck. A car fishtailed out of control, and the back end swung out, came about 2 feet from hitting me. I've never had something come that close to killing me before while shooting a story.
Despite coming inches from death, Anderegg keeps rolling.
When the pursuit ended, after the car crashed, police surrounded the vehicle, which actually started to catch on fire.
The chase had started when police spotted the suspect in this stolen car. The preoccupied officers ignore Anderegg as he closes in on the wrecked vehicle.
Police really never noticed that I was taping. The police were too busy dealing with the suspect to notice the camera behind them.
On the other side of the totaled Cadillac, Anderegg's camera documents the arrest of the suspect and the intense aftermath of the violent impact.
The suspect, I think, had a few broken bones. He was in relatively good shape for the crash that he just went through.
Tonight, Paul Anderegg walked away with some of the best news footage of his career. Perhaps it was because of his insatiable thirst for the perfect shot.
As soon as he lost control and he started coming towards me, my first thought was, you're going to get a close-up, so go wide. You live your life waiting for moments like these.
In the south central neighborhood of Los Angeles, police pursue a rusting heap of an old Chevy van.
He's approaching Crenshaw. He's got a lot of cross traffic here.
Officers know that the man behind the wheel is reckless and unpredictable.
He's on the wrong side of the street.
They also know that he allegedly tried to run down members of his own family only moments ago.
Back eastbound now.
But what these officers and helicopter pilot don't know is that the man running all these stop signs and running all these red lights can't even walk. He's a paraplegic, paralyzed from the waist down. Every rev of his engine, every slam of his brakes, is performed with special hand controls mounted on his steering wheel.
Through the gas station at Hyde Park.
Still, the suspect is able to boldly negotiate the worst traffic and nimbly evade his pursuers.
Okay, he's up to about 50 miles an hour now.
But to the cops and to the public, he's just another crook on the run.
He's not slowing down. He's got a lot of cross traffic. The cars do not see him. Here he goes. Wow, he almost hit that car right there. Another car almost rear-ended him as it came through the intersection, now southbound on Crenshaw.
By now, this pursuit has lasted over 15 minutes, but the suspect hasn't traveled beyond the immediate neighborhood.
He's got opposite direction traffic past 67th Street now. 67th Street.
Officers fear that if he did try to harm his family earlier, he may be trying to get back to them.
He's going around. It looks as though he's familiar with this area.
He veers into opposing lanes. He barrels straight ahead, not even slowing down for train tracks or intersections. Up ahead, another red light. But that doesn't bother him, until it's too late.
Okay, he's got a bus in the intersection, He's T8 into the bus. T8 into the bus. Look out, there's people on the, he's hit the, look at that. He crashed into that bus went into other vehicles. There are people running for their lives right on the sidewalk there.
His recklessness sets into motion a horrifying chain of events. He broadsides a city bus, which then plows into stopped cars. As people scramble for their lives, the van shears off a fire hydrant. And a terrified mother frantically pulls her children close.
We understand this person is possibly under the influence of drugs. Okay, he's got the vehicle stopped. It looks like the driver is getting out. They've got the person out. They've got the person out of the vehicle. He's on the ground. He's dragging himself out of the van there. Okay, the police have him proned out. They have him proned out.
Police carry out their standard felony procedure, still unaware of the man's disability. As the suspect defiantly mouths off to the police, officers learn of his handicap. But that doesn't mean he's not a dangerous criminal, especially to the 8 injured bus passengers who now have to be rushed to the hospital. Anybody who leaves a path of destruction like this behind will have to face the full force of the law. Queensland, Australia. It's Stuart Fireball Campbell's moment of glory. Months of dreaming and planning have led to this day.
I've never been in this thing all padded up before.
A day Fireball Campbell will try to set a new record for jumping over flaming cars.
The main motivation was that I seen Brian Carson set a world record in America of 94 metres, and he said that this stunt could only happen in America, so I just reckon this little old Aussie battler can pull it off bigger and harder than any American can ever do.
All he has to do is race his specially modified muscle car up a ramp and then soar at least 312 feet, 95 meters, over these cars which will be engulfed in flames. To pull off a stunt like this, a person needs 2 things on his side: steely nerves and the sound calculations of science. Unfortunately, Fireball Campbell is no scientist. And though he hasn't planned to fail, he certainly has failed to plan. To begin with, the road leading up to the ramp is bumpy and curved. Without a smooth and straight surface, it's doubtful he'll be able to build up the required 115 miles an hour speed. Then there's the ramp, which appears to be better suited for a skateboard. The length and angle of it may not be enough to launch a 2-ton car 50 feet, let alone 300. But Fireball Campbell is eager to fly into the record books in a blaze of glory. One thing's for sure, there will be a blaze. Campbell has a lot of pyrotechnics planned, and dozens of firefighters will be standing by.
They're pumped up, they're ready to go, and they're going to fight out one of the biggest fires they've probably ever seen in their whole careers.
Sunset arrives. It's time to make history. It's hard to imagine a more magnificent, not to mention predictable failure. He doesn't even make it 100 feet. Less than a third of his goal. The fire brigade races to the wrecked and burning vehicle and quickly gets to work. They discover the car's engine is in flames and threatening to blow. Inside the mangled wreckage, an injured Fireball Campbell lies trapped. The rescue workers try to assess his condition while figuring out the best way to remove him. If they take him out too fast, they could severely worsen his injuries. And if they don't move quickly enough, their flame retardant suits would be useless against a massive explosion. With enough foam to choke out a forest fire, they finally extinguish the flames. They determine that Campbell has only suffered a broken leg, and they carefully extract him from the smoking debris. He writhes in agony. But Fireball Campbell will live to fly again. This daredevil simply wanted to see his name in the record books. If only there were an entry for the most spectacular lack of good planning, then Fireball Campbell would surely go down in history after all. Indianapolis, Indiana, home to the world-famous Indy 500 car race. But there's no checkered flag on this speedway. This is the dash cam view of Officer Brian Swisher, who is just trying to get close to a pursuit that's already in progress. An armed man high on crack cocaine has just robbed a gas station attendant at knife point.
I gave it everything I had to catch up, but it still took me, it took me a couple miles to catch up.
When he does, he sees patrolman Max Maxfield, a 25-year veteran, engaged in a chase so fast, it seems better suited to their city's famous raceway.
Speeds exceeded 110 miles an hour. Vehicle went in and out of traffic. Suspect blew approximately 6 red lights at high speeds.
With Maxfield as the primary unit, the less experienced Swisher serves as backup. But there's a problem, and Swisher knows that at any moment he may have to take over this chase from Maxfield.
His low fuel light was on, so when it's pursuing somebody like an armed robbery suspect where you've actually got the car, you don't want to run out of gas during the pursuit.
To make matters worse, the robber's driving skills seem almost enhanced by the drugs coursing through his system. He continually surprises the officers with an assortment of daring and evasive moves. He anticipates every possible traffic condition, as well as every possible move his pursuer tries to make against him.
Every time that he attempted to pass him or get beside him, the suspect made a violent move to block him.
It appears that this seasoned pursuit veteran has met his equal.
I would have to say, and I've been in innumerable pursuits in 25 years, this guy was an exceptional driver.
Swisher watches once more as Maxfield tries to box in the suspect, but the robber quickly peels right, leaving Maxfield behind.
He made a sharp right, and I just kept going straight.
It's now Swisher's chase.
Thank goodness Officer Swisher was right behind him, because I was out of the picture then at that point for a good little bit of time.
Swisher follows at a distance, but within seconds he lets Maxfield blaze right past him. He knows if anybody can stop this guy, Maxfield can. And he'll have to do it fast. By now, Maxfield is practically running on fumes.
I felt that it was time to terminate the pursuit, the best way we could possibly do it. I tried to block the vehicle in with my police vehicle, and he at that time rammed my police vehicle with his vehicle.
Frustrated at his repeated failures to end this chase, Maxfield decides it's time to employ the ultimate chase weapon, the pit maneuver.
Police intervention tactic. It is a good tactic, and it works.
As they enter a safe stretch of road, Maxfield gives his adversary just a little nudge.
I was able to put my right front end into his left rear quarter panel, and therefore it spun the vehicle out and it hit the curb, and it actually knocks the tire completely from the axle.
Maxfield emerges, weapon drawn. This time escape is not an option. And as the robber's crack eye wears off, he makes the smartest move he's made all day. He surrenders. In a city synonymous with automotive battle, this crack-fueled felon proved himself a fleeting heavyweight. He gave one road-tested veteran more than a few surprises, and one young cop a front-row seat to one of the wildest races ever seen. On or off the track. In Isla Vista, California, a raging storm batters the coast. A storm this fierce invariably brings giant waves. Those giant waves bring out the hardcore surfers, willing to take the big risk.
The jump's gonna be just fine.
And that risk invariably brings out the Santa Barbara Fire Department.
We have 2 people on surfboards out in the water, and we also have 2 on the beach.
The rescue team started launching their boats when they got a 911 call about 2 surfers trapped on the rocks at the base of a cliff.
Okay, we got 2 guys. Look to be in trouble. We're having a hard time visualizing right now.
But even the rescue team is having trouble in this storm.
Okay, be advised, I've got 1 boat in the water. The second boat is going in at this time. We just lost sight of them in the fog and in the surf, so it's up to you to pick them up as soon as you can.
They also send a backup crew to check out the cliffside approach to the coast.
I understand that engine 12 is going to remain on Del Playa.
At this point, they realize they have an unusual predicament. The waves are higher than they thought. The cliffs are steeper, and the boats aren't going to be able to get in here at all. The surfers have been washed behind a seawall.
The waves actually got bigger. Time was of the essence, and we really needed to get them out.
The cliffside backup crew now becomes the main crew.
Slack on the haul line.
We had a rescuer down there with them, applied the harnesses. We had our system set up, so we decided to go ahead and pluck them out of there right away.
They give surfer Danny Proctor a hard hat and start to hoist him up. It's a long way up, but Danny waves casually in true surfer style. But it's not as easy as it looks. Halfway up, the lines get snarled. For a terrifying moment, Danny hangs suspended. They finally pull him over the edge. The firemen are as relieved as Danny. After they bring up the second surfer, Colby Graham, he explains how they got stuck.
Every time you try and make it, a wave washing out wouldn't let you get there.
As they pull up the rescue worker, the neighbor who made the original 911 call gives us his opinion.
I have no idea what might have motivated him to paddle out in these conditions. It's pretty ridiculous weather. I mean, it's like a storm, you know. No one in their right mind would go out and try to surf in this.
But like the true surfer dude that he is, Colby Graham explains it all in one word.
Waves. There are waves out there. But yeah, it's been a long time since I've been out when it's stormy.
If they're smart, it'll be a long time before they go out when it's storming again. One of the toughest parts of an officer's job is trying to arrest someone who won't go peacefully. It can turn an otherwise routine procedure into a life and death situation. That's why police officers go through extensive training on how to subdue belligerent suspects. In Tyler, Texas, an erratic driver is practically begging officers to stop him. So State Trooper Joe Hogue happily obliges. The man immediately pulls over. But if the trooper thinks he's got a cooperative suspect, he's in for a surprise.
Put your hands on the car.
When confronted by the officer, the driver suddenly begins ranting. Unfortunately, the suspect's mouth isn't the only thing running. The driver tries to break away, but Trooper Hogue never loses his grasp. He quickly restrains the man with a chokehold. But this suspect is determined to wrestle and scream his way to freedom. The officer gives the crazed man a face full of pepper spray. But the maced and handcuffed suspect still doesn't stop fighting. It doesn't take the officer long to realize what's going on.
I wanted to live with one little Mexican girl. I want a good girl. I want to live with my brothers and sisters. All in. I won't forget it.
From his insane screaming to his non-stop struggling, the suspect is exhibiting all the classic signs of being high on PCP, an extremely powerful narcotic that often induces violent hostility. PCP users typically have a higher pain threshold, coupled with a sense of invulnerability and superhuman strength. That's a terrifying combination for an officer like Joe Hogue, who's trying to restrain this PCP user by himself.
I don't know why you're mad at you. You come out in the horse.
The trooper wrestles with the unwieldy suspect for nearly 10 minutes before finally wearing him down.
He's gonna let me up. Like it's never happened.
Thankfully, Hogue was able to keep this suspect in check on his own. But in most cases, when it comes to controlling an angry perpetrator, backup is essential.
Yeah, but
In Chandler, Arizona, a call goes out for any available officers to assist at the scene of an accident. And as it turns out, every single one of them is needed. Drawing his confidence from a gut full of liquor, the suspect grapples an officer to the ground by his neck. But this guy picked the wrong crowd in which to start a fight. Thanks to backup officers' quick response time, the suspect is greatly outnumbered, and before long, out of commission. But even with a throng of backup officers, wrestling with a suspect can be extremely dangerous. That's why more and more police agencies are using non-lethal tools that allow them to take a suspect down from a distance. In Huntsville, Texas, an officer on patrol finds a drunken man grandstanding in the middle of the road.
71. Let me see your ID right now. Let me see your ID.
Without warning, the man attacks.
71 assault.
The officer draws his gun and waits for backup.
Get off the ground now. Get on the ground.
Just down the road, another cop is in the middle of a traffic stop when he hears the distress call. The officer immediately drops what he's doing. Soon the area is swarming with police. But officers are reluctant to try tackling a suspect this big and this combative. They decide to pull out a secret weapon, the taser.
Get back. Get on the ground.
With one shot, the officer fires two 26-watt darts into the suspect's skin. The probes stay connected to the taser by two wires, allowing the officers to use multiple shocks to keep the suspect submissive.
Pop him again.
The charge pulses through the man's nervous system, sending him into a leg-buckling spasmodic frenzy. He's stunned just long enough for police to swoop in and slap the cuffs on. In rare instances, suspects with heart problems have died from the electric shock. But the taser leaves most assailants with no long-term side effects. And with its 99% incapacitation rate, it has become one of law enforcement's safest ways to take down a suspect. But whether an officer is on his own, with his partners, or using a high-tech tool like the taser, nothing is safer or more effective than a suspect's compliance. Fire engines race to the scene of an intense mobile home fire in Des Moines, Iowa. By the time the firemen arrive, the trailer is nothing but a burned-out shell. They hope no one was inside during the blaze, but the reality is about to take them by surprise. Workers begin cautiously sifting through the charred rubble.
In all cases where we're on the scene, we do a primary and secondary search for victims.
Initial searches turn up nothing, but during a secondary search, the firemen do find a victim. A small kitten caked in ash and barely breathing. Paramedics rush the animal to a waiting ambulance.
Dispatch for medic 10.
EMTs Bobby Hamilton and David Sanchez immediately begin working to bring the kitten back from the brink of death.
We're using what's called a demand valve. We're forcing air by the nose and the mouth. Originally we had the mouth open.
Hamilton continues pumping oxygen into the cat's nose, while Sanchez tries to get the blood flowing by massaging its limbs. But the feline's body remains lifeless and limp. If Hamilton and Sanchez can't get it breathing soon, it may never breathe again.
Come on, open your mouth.
Time is running out. The kitten still isn't responding, and there's not much more they can do. They're just seconds from throwing in the towel when suddenly, a whisker twitches, and the kitten takes a breath. And Hamilton and Sanchez let out a sigh of relief.
Sit you up. Let's get you set up.
The men succeed in pumping the smoke from the cat's lungs, but the animal isn't out of the woods yet. Hamilton keeps a steady stream of clean air flowing to the nose and mouth. The kitten, still weak, expresses gratitude the only way it knows how.
Yeah.
The paramedics finish cleaning up their new friend. The kitten will make a full recovery. And it's all thanks to Bobby Hamilton and David Sanchez. Still, the rescuers' colleagues can't help but make light of the unusual rescue.
We're getting teased a little bit. We're called the Dr. Doolittle Squad right now.
Hamilton and Sanchez take the joke in stride. After all, this is the reason they get up in the morning, to save lives.